Can I roll some? Can I keep it lit? Can I smoke some? Can I be about it quick? Can I stack up? Can I say money talk? I don't flat guns. Can I play it low key? Mask up? Can I keep it on me? Stay strapped up? Can I hit it face down? Ass up? Can I say we had of our time? It can't lap us.
Yeah! It's May 11, and this is episode 11 of My Version's Better. I am one of your hosts, Bogart Scott-Free, along with me, the fantasy football hustler. And real quick, just want to shout out our other co-host, BWB. Couldn't make it today. You are missed, but I would be remiss if I don't also introduce, filling in for him, the CEO of our company, Robbie J. What's happening, fellas?
What's good? What's good?
What up?
I was expecting you to go one by one and bring us in, but okay, all good.
I mean, you know what's crazy is you might have missed the memo. I was like, bring us all in, all three at once. We're coming out the gate firing, because with no further delay, I want to bring in our very special guest. He's a legend, a legendary innovator, the creator of the Reception Perception, by way of NFL Network to now Yahoo Sports. It's our man, Matt Harmon. Hey.
Oh, man. That was probably the most electric intro I've ever gotten for any show I've ever been on in the whole fantasy situation. So I'm hyped now. That was like almost like a wrestler intro, which I don't know if you guys are like into wrestling or not. I'm not really, but I've had some experiences. Actually, just ran into Steve Austin down the street last weekend. Yeah, he's got the beer
like
with yeah, right. That's a heavy name drop here.
It's a subtle flex. It's a subtle flex. I'm not even a wrestling fan, but I ran into Stone Cold. Just legend. Yeah, legend talk.
Well, he does have a beer with El Segundo Brewing Company, which is down the street from where I live. So I guess which is what a badass move, by the way. You show up in your Ford Bronco, you park that bad boy, and you just walk into the brewery and say, "I'll have my beer." Like, that's whatever flex I just did was nothing compared to that.
Cannot wait until we can say our rum. We just walk into the facility and it's our rum.
Our rum.
Hey, speaking of our, well, I mean, since we already have everybody here, let's just go ahead and pay some bills really quick. Bogart, hurry up, Monkey Knife Fight. Bow.
Yeah. Rum boys and girls, head on over to monkeyknifefight.com, download the MKF app, and you'll be well on your way to winning some legal legit money on some daily fantasy sports prop action. Use promo code RUMBOYS. We'll match that first deposit all the way up to 50 smackers. We got baseball in full swing, pun intended. Get in on some home run derby action. Head on over to mkf.com, promo code RUMBOYS, and you'll be well on your way to yelling, Monkey Knife Fight, give me money.
I love how you still have to say that that's a deliberate joke. Like, you would think that like a couple weeks into this, everybody would catch on.
Baseball's in full swing.
Gotta add the pun intended, Hey, really quick, want to remind everyone that be sure to download the SportsMe app. Go ahead. I went ahead and dropped a link. Oh, and Streamlabs actually went ahead and took care of it as well. Go ahead, click the link, download the SportsMe app, debate your favorite analysts across the world of podcasting, across the world of sports. Let's see here. Quick click, interactive content, 30 seconds. Drop your take, drop your hot takes. You can start the battle. You can go ahead and reply to a battle. Again, 3 of us are on the app already. Who knows? Maybe I send Matt Harmon a little invite and he hops on. Keep your eyes peeled.
The legend.
The legend.
Legendary Matt Harmon. Yes,
hey, let's go ahead. Let's roll into this thing, Bogey.
Yeah, okay. Well, we, like I said, we got the creator of the Reception Perception, man. And, quick side story, man. Shout out to the fantasy footballers. I'm actually in the league with Andy Holloway. Subtle flex, right?
Nice.
But it's so awesome that, like, I'm sitting here talking with the dude who's helped me win fantasy championships. Like, I would buy that that ultimate draft kit. This is not an official sponsor, by the way, but I would buy that joint just to get my hands on the reception perception. And now we're here. This is awesome. Being fantasy analysts, you know, your tools have sharpened our swords. That's for sure. Legend. You know what I'm saying?
Hey man, that's what I'm here for. Now hopefully you'll make your way over to the new site and subscribe there too. We can get it popping there as well, man. So yeah, I appreciate the kindness off the top. And yeah, the footballers are great. That was a great partnership. Those guys are awesome. They're still killing it. They don't need me to still be killing it. That's for sure. Those guys are awesome.
Legend talk. You know what I mean? And for those of y'all that aren't aware, you know, we want y'all to also go sub to the Matt Harmon RP channel on YouTube. I know you just launched that joint, correct?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're gonna try to direct as much traffic there. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna run that route, run that full route tree to that channel. You know what I mean? See what that wasn't as good as baseball full swing, but you know,
I appreciate it.
Your version's better. You know what I mean? Hey, check this out. We got a big show for y'all, Run Boys and Girls, and we're gonna pop this off with my co-host, my man, Fantasy Football Hustler.
So I got to double down on what Bogart said. I mean, I was getting the ultimate draft kit just to get access to that reception perception. When you made it exclusive to them, I had to make sure that I was hopping on there. So yeah, I made that move too. I just wanted to know, all of us want to know, where'd the whole journey start for reception perception?
Yeah, listen, I mean, it's been a long journey at this point, right? You know, it was about, say, like late 2013. I was a total nobody, still a nobody. I mean, well, you call me a legend, but I'm
legend.
I'm still working the way. Yeah, no one was calling me a legend back in 2013 when I basically decided, like, look, I want to get into this football thing. You know, I was a young guy then, 22 years old, living on my own. Actually had plans to go back and like get a PhD and really study, become like an academic. Decided I did not want to do that and decided to pursue football full time, basically like go all in at the thing. And, you know, for me, like I said, I was a nobody. You know, I didn't play in the NFL. Obviously, you're not going to find my Pro Football Reference page up there. I didn't have any connections to anyone in the league. I did not have any connections to anyone in media. I was just, like I said, a legit nobody. So for me, I started my own website doing some stuff there, but I thought to myself, look, if I'm going to stand out in this very crowded field, there's a lot of folks out there, a lot of guys, a lot of girls trying to get in, covering the NFL, covering fantasy football. Like, how am I going to stand out? And for me, I decided I was going to study the wide receiver position. I was going to create something that would really stand out in the industry. But also for me, it was just answering the biggest question I had about football, which, you know, you guys know this, all your listeners, your viewers know this too. Wide receivers are so inherently dependent on other positions in order to get any kind of stat. You know, they're lucky if they get 10 targets in a game, but there's like 30, 40 pass attempts in a game, you know, 60 some offensive plays. Like, I wanted to find a way to credit the wide receiver for the one thing that they can control, which is how often do they get open, how often do they run good routes. And for me, that was where reception perception was born. I did a lot of testing on it and basically went in and charted, you know, all of this game film to the point now that I narrowed it down to an 8-game sample for NFL players, where I'm going in and charting every single route that they run in that game sample and trying to quantify what we all hear out there, which is, oh, this guy is a good route runner, or this guy gets separation. Well, I wanted to find a way to show people that in an enjoyable and viewer-friendly way, which is, I think, what we've gotten here with reception perception. But, you know, it's a long journey. It's gone from a lot of different places. It was, you know, the football guys, Washington Post, ended up landing an NFL Network, Yahoo Sports now, and then now starting my own site as well after the Fantasy Footballers partnership. So, yeah, it's like a very short version of what's been a long story there with me and reception perception.
What I love too about like, especially whenever you lay out your graphics, you know, how you talk about, you know, graphing, a lot of guys in the industry, they figure, hey, I have this graph, here's my analytics, look at me, how smart I am, and, you know, and they think that it's that simple. Yours are very eye-catching. I like the way that you color coordinate. You color coordinate, you know, the route tree. We'll get into that, you know, a little bit later. But I really enjoy the fact that you make sure that the person consuming that content is digestible. you talked about kind of working through, and I want to make sure I quote you correctly, brother, here, that you had to kind of make sure that you had to figure it out, over the years. What made it to where the product is where it is today? Where you kind of what the reader is looking for. You know
this product's a bad motherfucker. You know what I'm saying?
Exactly. Thank you.
Yeah. No, I mean, so I did a lot of back testing before I put anything out to the public, because one thing I really do believe, you talked about people that post charts and graphics, and number one, like, yeah, it's you can do a ton of great research, but if 95% of the people that follow you don't know what the hell you just put out there, like what you're trying to say, that's tough. You probably just wasted a lot of your time. I also believe like there should be some sort of intuition to what you're putting out there, which is like, if I go in there and, just to see that like Julio Jones is not good in reception perception, well, maybe this series kind of like doesn't make any sense. Like what you're doing doesn't make any sense, right? Because we all know, like, we're not stupid. We know Julio Jones is good at football. That's just like a very basic example. At the time it was like these other receivers. So that's number one. Number two, that like the early days. But over the years, I say this all the time. There's so much that I would have, like, there are some things I would have said about reception perception and the data, 3 years ago, or even like 5 years ago, that I would never say now. And that's just the benefit of sample size, right? Like, I've got over 300 players in the NFL database now, and with all of that context is really what I'm able to tell you, like, yeah, sure, this guy isn't good in this success rate versus man metric, but let's talk about how good he is versus zone, because he's an interior player, Cooper Kupp, something like that. So I also, I definitely know where like the thresholds are as well. I lay that out in the intro article, that at this point, like, I know if you're at the 90th percentile, 80th, 70th, like there's sort of those cutoffs there to what we can really expect out of what you're going to become as an NFL player. So that, I think, is the biggest benefit, is just the years of context and years of data now makes forecasting off of it so much easier.
Yeah. And like, when you look at the existing, coordinators and systems that are in play, you'll be able to see why some of these players, like that we'll actually talk about later, some of these rookies land where they land.
Yes.
You know what I mean? Because like they're looking for maybe a system fit. You know what I mean? Like, okay, this guy is going to fit what we do because of his success rate against zone, or you know what I mean? Like,
no, deployment is everything, man. And that's another thing too. Like, it's something that I guess should have been smarter about. I don't know, but like working through the data in the early days, I didn't really take into account as much like where these guys line up, So for example, you look at the Steelers. I think people talk about the Steelers as if they have some sort of like skeleton key at scouting wide receivers. Yeah. I don't know about that. They did draft Sammy Coates, right? Like in the third round, and that guy did like literally nothing, So they have their misses too, but I think what they're really good at is identifying players and saying like, okay, don't think about body type or whatever. Like Juju is a great example, because this guy is built, 6'2", I think over 210 pounds. Like he's, but he's built. You would look at him and think, like, I guarantee you there's some dumb team out there that would have looked at him and be like, we got to play him on the outside. We got to play him as our X receiver. The Steelers never did that, because he's not the type of guy that gets open versus man press coverage, but he is really good at separating versus zone. He's really good after the catch. He's really good in contested situations. They transition him into that big slot role. And the fact that he's not good at getting open versus man or press coverage really doesn't matter all that much. I mean, it might put some sort of ceiling. Like we see now, teams probably don't want to make him their number one receiver, but they're totally willing to throw him in there as that big slot guy. The Chiefs pursued him. The Ravens pursued him. Ended up going back to the Steelers. Like, there were teams after him for the right role, because he is really good at those things. And that's why it's like, you never want to take just one number with reception perception. You kind of got to take everything in context, which is why I try to lay all of that out. It's not just one thing. It's all of this stuff together.
Yeah. Hustler, you got any more questions about the journey in a nutshell before we move on?
Not in the journey, but we can just go on to the next one here because let's just pretend that there's a few people in the world who may be hearing about reception perception for the first time. Receptionperception.com.
I like that he laughs and he's like, I'm not a legend.
legendary.
I'm not a legend. He's like, you gotta heard of reception. Motherfucker paid.
So receptionperception.com, I mean, that's where everything is as of right now. Can you just break it down? How does it help you just as a fantasy manager, just breaking it down to the most layman terms?
Yeah, I think the way that most people like to use it is something like listen, guys. I mean, if you're going to be a legend, you got to be able to market your shit, right? And the one thing that's on the website is we're trying to tell you who's good before they're good, and I think that's the easiest way to use this series. And you can go back through the years of reception perception, whether it was Stephon Diggs, Allen Robinson, Tyler Lockett, yada 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 yada. All these guys that before they had that breakout Chris Godwin, before they had that breakout season, you could see Calvin Ridley. I mean, listen, we could go on and on and on. Let's keep the time. Let's keep the time. There's all these guys that have had these awesome numbers in reception perception. Again, fitting into some of those thresholds that we're looking at for future success, which is laid out on the website. I won't go through all the the boring math here or whatever, but those guys were doing that before they actually put up big numbers, before they got the target totals that we're used to them getting now. And I think that's really one of the ways to use it is okay, this guy's getting open. He's getting separation. We see in reception perception history that these guys that get open and they can beat man press coverage as outside receivers or inside whatever, those guys eventually have some level of career success. There's very, very few guys that have gotten open at a certain level. The 90th percentile, it's legit nobody that's gone on to, no one goes on and fails when you're that high. In your 80th, there's a bit lower of a hit rate, but for the most part, these guys are all successful in some way. So I think that's the way that obviously, you want to look at it that way. But I also love the example that was brought up about, system fits and stuff like that. For example, I was not really that crazy about a guy like Brandon Ayuk coming into the league because of look, he's got some work that he needs to do. But then he goes to the 49ers and it's oh, who cares? Because you can look
Changes the game.
at Debo. Yeah, it changes everything because you can go look at Debo Samuel's route charts from 2019 and it shows you oh, this was a guy who was put in position. He's a limited player, but he was put in. Yeah, exactly. He was put in position to win in that system. And I actually think Ayuk is a better pure player now at this point, based on what we've seen in the NFL. A better pure player than Debo Samuel is. So, and I see you rock the 49ers hat, so I know I don't really got to tell you that. Yeah. But now at this point, it changes everything. So that's another way that I think you can use it is we've seen what teams have done. We see how guys win on the route trees and everything like that. And it's a good way to assess fit, which is everything. Because as much as I love to study these guys, as much as I love to see who gets open, like I said at the top, wide receivers need a lot of help to be good in fantasy football. So that is another part of it too. There's also situations where wide receiver talent does elevate quarterback play, and you get a guy like Stephon Diggs in Buffalo. He's going to be that rising tide that raises all boats, whether it's Josh Allen or then Cole Beasley on the inside there too. So there's a lot of different ways you can use it. I think everybody's favorite though is mostly all right, try to tell me who's going to be good before everybody else.
Yep.
See, and that's one thing, being a fantasy analyst myself, or self-proclaimed, right? But especially in my home groups, bro, my home leagues, I would keep all this to me. You know what I mean? I wouldn't share it. You know what I mean? Finding the knowledge of someone like yourself, a legend who's putting this legendary content together where you could help me foresee things before they happen. You know what I mean? And then also, with that said, we go and do our content as fantasy analysts, and we're helping other people, you know what I mean? Because of the information that we get from, reception perception or PFF or, et cetera, you know what I mean? But reception perception out of, when you, like you said earlier, you stand that in the middle of the crowd, that one stands out. You know what I mean? That one's in hot pink and lime green. You know what I mean? That one, it sticks out, bro. We see that joint. And like you said, it was the 1-1, and I have yet to see anybody, I think because you can't really, they say imitation is the highest form of flattery. I mean, I don't think this one is. I don't think you could imitate this one. Like, you know what I mean? Like,
you cannot imitate this. You cannot.
Yeah,
Someone jokingly retweeted. They're like, "I tried my best reception perception impersonation," and you retweeted. I thought it was hilarious. Honestly, I was like, "Bro, you tried." It was a meme.
I mean, listen, but like, listen, it's a lot of work, right? I mean, that's the thing. It's an absurd amount of sitting here and looking at these guys and charting game film and everything like that. So I hope nobody ever tries, because I hope that they get to have, a nice, normal life, well-adjusted 9 to 5, that whole situation. So in that way, in many ways, I hope it's not no one tries to imitate it.
Amen to that.
Highly imitated, never duplicated. They might say, even. You know what I mean?
Bars.
Yeah. So Hustler, what stands out to you? When you're utilizing the reception perception for your fantasy purposes.
Really, how
easy PPR for sure.
Well, yeah, but really just how easy it is to use. I mean, I can look at this and I can see what kind of routes they're running the most, which ones are getting open on the most without knowing much, with knowing nothing. If I knew nothing, I could look at it and understand what it means. So that's the coolest thing about it, where you can know nothing about a player, look at it real quick and know a lot about that player in 2, 3, 4 minutes of just reading all the analytics of what routes they run the most, what routes they're getting open on the most, whether it's zone or man coverage, and even the success rate per reception on each route. So
and on the flip side, you being the IDP guy, you could take your knowledge of the defense and then be like, okay, now this success rate against this nickel or this, you know what I mean? Like, you get to really get further and sharper, because like then you start to see it like the Matrix, even. You know what I mean?
Exactly. The game begins to slow down for you.
The fantasy isms, at least. You know what I mean?
Because exactly what you said right there. Like, if someone is breaking off on the man coverage, that means that corner is probably not going to get a lot of love, but it's going to be a huge day for a free safety who's like the center fielder all the way back.
Yep.
There it is, right there. That's that ism right there. You know what I'm saying? Well, check this out. We're gonna go ahead and we're gonna mosey right on into this next subject, and this one's this one I actually narrowed this one down as a whole, because I was gonna go individual player. I was like, you know what? Let me just see where he's generalizing on certain aspects. So, after the addition or subtraction of players to NFL teams, after the draft, after free agency and after the draft, who do you see get an increase in reception perception, or your reception perception? And on the flip side of that, who takes a decrease? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I got to tell you, like, after free agency and even after the draft, I'm getting really excited about this Washington offense. Which
Let's go! I love Curtis Samuel's value this year. Curtis Samuel's value.
Yeah. Look, I grew up actually in Virginia. That's where I'm from. I watched a lot. I watched a lot of Washington football in my time, and I did not enjoy it. I mean, I don't even know how I like football at this point. I grew up on the era of
both, bro.
Yeah, I was gonna say he's. Our CEO is our resident Washington football team. You know what I mean?
There we go. By the way, I think they need to stick with Washington football team.
Me too. I like it.
Like it's just weird. It's weird. I like that.
They called the New York Giants the New York Football Giants for till this day. So it's kind of fitting.
No. We need a name.
Or the Washington Watch Yourselves, because that's what my boy Sweetness has been. Sweetness been pushing that. Shout out to Sweetness, man. I like that. I'll vote for that. Washington Watch Yourselves.
You keep pushing it, but next year we getting a name. Damn it.
Well, for now, they can just be Washington football team. And look, I like the way this team is set up. Like, it's very far from the Jason Campbell, Mike Sellers offenses that I'm sure you're familiar with as well. Yeah. Oh my God, dark days. Listen, this team is going to be explosive. Terry McLaurin's a guy that was a 89th percentile success rate versus man coverage player as a rookie. I think he's a true number one receiver. I was all over that guy in drafts this year. I'm going to be all over him again in drafts this year, because I think he is on that Stephon Diggs, Odell Beckham axis of players. I think he can be a true coverage dictating number one receiver. And obviously the addition of Curtis Samuel lights my fire from a reception perception standpoint. This guy has finished extremely high against man press coverage every single year. I think he can win as a vertical receiver. He just had a quarterback in his last couple years in Carolina that was not going to push the ball down the field. Obviously, we know Teddy's not pushed the ball down the field. Kyle Allen tried his best to push that ball down the field in 2019. And
uncatchable targets, right?
Bro.
Literally one of the worst deep ball quarterbacks that we've ever seen. So I think he can.
Terrible.
I think he can really get unleashed with Ryan Fitzpatrick back there, a guy that we know has no problem pulling the trigger. I also like the fact that they drafted De'Ami Brown out of UNC. Not that I think Brown's going to be some big
they're attracting
in year one. It shows they want to be a vertical passing offense. They want to push that thing down the field. And this is a coaching staff too that ever since Scott Turner took over in Carolina as the play caller, he's been pretty pass heavy. Like we think of Ron Rivera, the defensive football, minded part of the head coaching there, as being run first and conservative. And look, I like Antonio Gibson this year. I like the pride of Lynchburg, Virginia, Logan Thomas this year a little bit too.
Yeah, the legend.
Let's go.
Now that's a legend.
Now that's a legend.
That's a legend right there. So anyways, this team is just full of guys that I think are explosive. I think this team's going to score a lot of points. And I got my toughest decision right now. I always like to try to look for, the value offense of the year or whatever. And I think that's a deep one, but I think I think there's a chance it could happen, but that's a real deep one.
Yeah.
I think the two favorites are probably Washington and Cincinnati.
Yeah.
I think Cincinnati could be a whole lot of fun too. Like that's a trio of receivers.
I think Carolina too, man. Is there's a stench on my man Sam Darnold Schwarzenegger. You know what I mean?
That could be
that's deep though. You know what I'm saying? We're going
Sam Darnold's ceiling is exactly where Teddy Two Gloves ended. QB 19. That's. I'm not expecting anything more.
I'll go QB 18. Let's go.
It's
an improvement.
There's a bold take.
Your version's better.
There it is.
I mean, at least Darnold will be more aggressive. That's for sure. He's got some Jameis in him, just from dating back to the USC days. Like Darnold would let that thing go even when it was covered. That's definitely going to be different from the perspective of what they were dealing with Teddy Bridgewater. But I don't know. I'm still a little bearish on the whole Darnold thing and like that experiment. But there's a chance it could work out. He's obviously got talented players like Terrace Marshall landing there a lot. That's another. They needed. They actually really needed a wide receiver 3. I know that people talk about Carolina as being loaded at the skill position. They're very top heavy.
Not
Robbie.
so much.
Yeah, like DJ Moore's a good player. Robbie Anderson's a good player. He's in the last year of his contract, though. Christian McCaffrey is obviously one of the best backs in the league, but they didn't have a tight end, and their third receiver is like David Moore. Everybody's complaining about the fact that Seattle's got no number 3 receiver, and then Carolina signs their number 3 receivers to be their third. I don't think so. Marshall, I think, is actually going to bring a lot to that skill position room.
No,
Shout out to David Moore, though. That's my DFS goat right there.
Oh yeah,
I would throw him in a flex and be like,
really quick, Matt, because this question keeps arising in the chat, and for some reason, my subscribers will not just let this one be, and I keep telling them, guys, the addition of Damani, the draft of Damani, and bringing in Curtis Samuel, hell, old ass Adam Humphries may come in for a play or two. These guys actually helped Terry McLaurin last a little bit longer, and especially if you're a dynasty head,
against zone. If
you're a dynasty head, you have to be happy about the fact that you're going to get more years out of McLaurin. Can you? I think I feel like you're leaning towards McLaurin being a piece that you shouldn't have to worry about. But can you maybe comfort the chat a little bit?
Yeah, I think number one, just really believe that he is the type of guy that's going to stand above those players. I like Curtis Samuel and I like De'Ami Brown as a prospect. I mean, I think Samuel could be a legit, really good number 2 receiver. I think Logan Thomas can be a legit good starting tight end, and Gibson I think is a good bet out of the backfield. But I think McLaurin, like I said, he's on that level. Like, I think he's going to be a Stephon Diggs type of player, the true center of the universe of an offense. And there was a scenario that if the Washington football team added nobody, did not add any other competent receivers, that like Ryan Fitzpatrick was just going to rifle that ball to Terry McLaurin like 170 freaking times or something. Like, that was definitely in the range of outcomes. That's probably not going to happen now that these other guys are there. But I think McLaurin's a lock to at least clear the 130-ish targets that he saw last year. I think he's a lock for that volume. And while I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, listen, the coverage that Samuel will dictate, I don't really believe in all that stuff. But I do think that those other guys being on the field, like Fitzpatrick having other options, is going to increase the overall efficiency of the offense. So like Terry could get 130 targets and score 10 touchdowns, whereas that was not going to happen in the offense of, last year.
Every time he's on man, every time, like, he'll spread the ball around. I can see this.
Yes.
They spread the ball around, and every time he's on man, they fucked up. Boom. It's Terry McLaurin touchdown.
Terry McLaurin touchdown.
Because he got the speed and he has the hands, bro. Like, that's the one thing where I'm like, this guy catches with his hands. That's why I love that.
And the technique,
the OBJ
too.
Just route tactician, bro.
Yeah,
not just
a guy that just gets open. Yeah. You need to be able to control your speed. You need to be able to run with good technique. I think he's just a total stud. I fully believed, like, after his rookie year in reception perception, he was going to go on that Diggs OBJ access of, a guy that can win on the outside and get open. He showed that as a rookie, and so there's only going to be that progression. We saw it with Calvin Ridley is a good example. Like, he had always been getting open at a high level ever since he hit the NFL field. It was just a matter of, all right, when was he going to get that opportunity to be the clear-cut 1B to Julio Jones 1A? He got that and more last year with Julio Jones' injury, and we saw that he could handle that. I think he is on that same axis of player as well.
Okay, I have one. I have one here that I'm interested in because there's a change of coordinator here in Tennessee. How are we viewing AJ Brown right now? Because we're taking him pretty high, and I know he's the only game in town, quote unquote, right?
Yeah.
On an offense that has never topped like 490 pass attempts with Tannehill under center. I mean, I feel like I'm paying too much in fantasy for AJ Brown because even though the allure of all the targets, he's going to be a focal point outside of Henry. You know what I mean? With the pilgrimage of what's his name? My man John New and even Corey Davis actually, was kicking up dust last year. You know what I mean?
I can't believe that they didn't draft somebody higher. I really thought they'd be a lock to add somebody like Elijah Moore or Rashad Bateman, someone in that.
Elijah Moore would have been nasty. Or
two Ole Miss guys there. That would have been great. But didn't happen. I still think that, look, like Tannehill might throw another 490 passes this year, and like AJ Brown might legit get like 200 of those passes from him.
Better. We're going with this.
Yeah. He's a guy that I think could handle that level of volume too. He's an elite receiver to me. Like, I think that the craziest thing about AJ Brown, and he was a guy that some people pegged as like that next big slot receiver, the Juju Smith-Schuster type. However, he hit the field from day one in his rookie season in 2019 and won as a true X receiver in the NFL, like a true number one outside alpha. And he only, despite the fact being that he was, injured last year, he was still that player. Like, I think he can be a true number one receiver that's going to win with that type of target total. So, he'll be a focal point, but I think that the volume will offset that. It's tough when you look at AJ Brown against the tier of guys, like that Calvin Ridley tier, Justin Jefferson. Like, he's going to be up there. I think he's a lock top 10 receiver this year. Like, and that's obviously being incredibly conservative based on where he's going in drafts.
Yeah, I like that. So it is value. It is still value. I like the volume. And you know what? We're going with that. 200 targets. We're going with it. The expression's better. Let's go.
Matt Harmon said.
It's coming. That's coming.
Okay, I have Oh, go ahead.
What about the flip side with someone who's going to decrease a little bit? Maybe someone who outperformed their reception perception based on maybe injuries that were above them, or something besides that.
I like that hustler.
With
I think
Kittle and them coming back. How about Ayuk?
Well, listen, I still like Brandon Ayuk. I think he's going to be a cut above Deebo Samuel. I think he can be like a true. They used him like a number one receiver last year.
Yeah,
I'm going to be adding those guys like that 2020 class of players to the site next week. That's when those guys are going to go up on receptionperception.com.
Yes.
Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, T. Higgins, Chase Claypool, Brandon Ayuk, all those guys are going to be on the site next week. And I listen, this isn't a guy that I think is, necessarily a bad player or anything, but I do think you obviously have to say, like, with what happened in the draft, T. Higgins, I think if you had optimistic expectations for him to become like take that next step, I think you got to be a little concerned about it just from a fantasy angle because of Jamar Chase. Listen, I love Chase. I think he completes that wide receiver room. Like, he gives him that true number one X receiver potential. Mm-hmm. Higgins, I think, like, did outperform like his normal output last year.
Oh yeah.
I think he's just going to be a good number 2 receiver in the league. I think when you look at him in reception perception, when that profile hits the site next week, I don't know that he's ever going to be that true number 1 receiver, which is, I think, why the Bengals, despite the fact that they got good production out of him, they said, look, we were still last year a small ball offense. Even when Joe Burrow was back there, they were mostly a short to intermediate passing game because they had Higgins, who is, I think, a number 2 possession receiver type. And then they have Tyler Boyd, who is that like original bigger slot player. He's been doing that for a while now. They needed a number 1 that wasn't dusty old AJ Green at that point. Yeah. Like, I think Jamar Chase is going to take that offense to the next level. I'm not saying that he's like a big loser, but I think if you had expectations that he was going to be like a 120 target player, I think that's probably out the window with Chase there. He's just too much of a difference maker.
Chase got that. He has that I'm a number 1 receiver swag when he steps on the field too.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Bro showed up. Bro showed up. I mean, I'm sure he already knew that the Bengals were going to select him, but like he let
he
the
showed up
world
in the
know.
Orange and the black and white.
Yeah, and some Vans. Yeah, like some custom.
Yeah, I would hope that his boy Joe Burrow would like let him know, like, no, this is really happening. Like this is really going to happen. Could you imagine if he didn't go there and he's like still
he's in the orange
like,
Vans and he's hot. He's like, wait.
Got picked up by the Jets. Oh shit, got some more.
Tough scene.
Okay, well, speaking of these rookies, right? We're gonna go ahead and segue. So we have, the most entertaining NFL draft to me. I feel like every year just gets better because I get more engulfed into fantasy. So I'm more like everything matters to me. You know what I mean? And this is my 3rd year in my dynasty leagues. I'm kind of a newbie. So like, man, these rookies, like I'm looking to reception perception when it comes to these rookies. For example, I want you to tell me when you look at, because I know this is kind of a sneak peek, right? I mean, I know you got your rookies stuff coming out of college, but when you're looking at the reception perception, what stands out to you about these rookies? And we'll go ahead. I want to start with let's start with my man Rashad Bateman, who I actually wasn't really big on, and I actually, just watching his film, bro, and like seeing your breakdown on reception perception. I'm like, oh, okay, I need to look at this guy. Aside from the fact that he's on an offense that's not theoretically won't throw as much, you know what I mean? But I'm like, you know what? This guy's a number 1. So what stands out to you when you look at Bateman?
Yeah, I think you got to go back to that 2019 season for Bateman to really get the full picture of what this player can be, because in 2020, he opts out, then he opts back in. He has like a serious case of COVID, like loses a bunch of weight. He said that on a PFF podcast. Like, that's just a mess. Like, the pandemic really made tough, made life tough on us all, obviously, no kidding. But like, definitely like evaluating players.
Of course, I like to call it the apocalypse, but yes, continue.
Yeah, that was a whole nother thing. Yeah. It made evaluating tough this year just for stuff like that, So going back to 2019 with Bateman, this was a guy that won outside down the field as a true number 1 X receiver, 81st percentile success rate versus press coverage, like as a guy that could truly get out there and win off the line of scrimmage. I think he's a detailed technician that already looks like a pro-ready receiver back in his 2019 film. Like, he looks like a guy that could win on the outside. In 2020, he was playing like a slot receiver role, so maybe you could see him do a little bit of both. I think that would actually be great for Baltimore because at this point, with Lamar Jackson, like we've been saying since college that, yeah, he's obviously not a wide receiver. No kidding. Yeah. Like he's a quarterback, but I think his strength as a passer is over the middle of the field. Like he's not the best throwing outside the numbers. Like he can run, I think, a great offense, a great passer over the middle of the field.
And bringing in guys like Sammy opposite of Hollywood, that's going to just, you got Burners on the outside. That's going to open it up for the guy where he shines as a passer over the middle. Yeah.
Even Sammy Watkins, like his best routes are crossing routes over the middle of the field. Like that's what you really want to do with Watkins. You don't really want him going downfield as much at this point in his career. You want him making plays in space. That was when he's had those big moments for Kansas City. Honestly, even when he had his big moments back in Buffalo, it's on those crossing patterns. Bateman, one of his best routes, one of the routes he ran most often was the dig route. He had really high success rate on the curl route as well. Some of those in-breaking patterns, I think he can absolutely crush it on those. For fantasy, it's just a volume issue, but I think it's a great fit. Like for Baltimore, from a real-life football perspective, this was like a slam dunk pick. It's exactly what they needed. Yes. I also think he can be a true number one. I like Hollywood Brown. I like him as a player, but I don't think he's a true number one.
He's just a burner to me.
Hold on. Here's the thing. Because when you're talking about Baltimore, an offense that when they had that 12 personnel, when they still had Hurst there in that lineup, you were able to hey, we need Andrews, we need to give you some rest. So let's go ahead and bring in Boyle and we'll run Hurst. Hey, all right, Boyle, you're back off. We got Hurst now Andrews. And Lamar was just going off through the middle of the field. If you look at Lamar's heat map last year, for those of you guys that enjoy the graphs and stuff, you guys can Google Lamar Jackson's heat maps. All of the red is literally in the middle of the field. It is literally, Alex, I know you know exactly which one I'm talking about. It's just red all through like the middle because he's constantly targeting a tight end in a slot. I feel like if you line Bateman up in the slot, you have a guy that's going to go up there and go and get it. For those guys that enjoy film, one of the things that you probably enjoyed most about his film was that he goes up there and he boxes out. He will go up there, turn whole body, and he'll get the contested catches. So I love Bateman for Baltimore. Absolute great fit.
Robbie, what you got? Hit him with another one.
Yep, I was about to say, this is a perfect opportunity after being so high on someone. Here's someone that I am low in because of his landing spot in Kadarius Toney. And when I look at his
spoken like a true football team fan.
Why is everything red for Kadarius?
Listen, let's start off with the positives for New York. Let's well, I mean, just from an ecosystem perspective, let's talk positive for New York. They're loaded at receiver, which is why I think this was a weird pick. They went out there, and it's funny too, because like all of these guys are Dave Gettleman guys, Kenny Golladay, he went out and paid him big money. Like he gave Sterling Shepard a big contract extension after trading Odell Beckham. Even Darius Slayton was like a late round hit for Dave Gettleman. Yet they still want to add one more body. I guess they just don't expect Slayton or Shepard or Ingram to be around that much longer, which makes sense. But I guess he's probably just making it so, there's no excuses for Daniel Jones. The guy who has like 40-something turnovers and 26 career starts or something.
He is not a legend, by the way.
Did Gettleman hit you up before this pick and ask, like, hey, what's the reception perception? I think he may have should have. He probably should have.
Maybe he should have. Listen,
he said go to receptionperception.com, David.
He didn't want to pay. He didn't want to pay for a sub, and I get it, Dave. I know times are tough on that GM salary. But the thing with Kadarius Toney and why all the routes are red for him is like I think there's some really good parts of his game. Like I wrote a superlatives article for receptionperception.com, and like I think he's the best after the catch receiver in the class. Broke almost 20.
He kind of reminds me of like Debo after
exactly
the catch.
And let's come back. Let's table the Debo thing. We're gonna come back to it because like he's the best after catch receiver in the draft. But I think his coaching staff in the NFL. I said this before the draft, before knowing where he was gonna land. They're starting from square one, like ground zero when it comes to his route running. He's not a separator. He has no technique. Maybe that's something he can learn, but he finished at the 1st percentile in success rate versus press, 13th percentile against man coverage, 2nd against zone. For my non-math heads out there, you don't want to be at the 1st. You don't want to be at the 2nd. That's bad. That means you're down there at the bottom. So like I said, they're basically starting from square one in terms of teaching him to be a true wide receiver. But I think they could line him up in sort of a gadget receiver role. You know, I think you can ask a question like, do you really want to take a guy like that when you're already loaded at receiver? Do you want to spend a 1st-round pick? Is that bad value? I think it is bad value. But there's clear positives to his game. The problem is, like you said, he could be a Debo type of player, but Debo ends up with the best coach to design those type of roles. And the Giants have Jason Garrett.
They have the clapper.
I don't think he's going to be designing a creative role for any player, much less a guy like this who needs a lot of work. I think that's my biggest problem with the pick is the offensive coordinator that he landed with.
When I saw 0% corner routes for Kadarius Toney, I was like, oh, gosh.
I forgot to say 100% earlier, going back to Baton, 100% on the corner route.
Yeah.
I forgot to bring that up. So, like, for anybody who ever now, because that changed my whole mindset when I saw that. I was like, you know what? The volume's not going to be there, but in fantasy, he'll probably be my 3rd receiver or a flex. And like, if you get him on that corner route, bro, you know what I mean? I like my chances. As you know,
it's going to be some big plays.
Yeah, you know what I mean? Maybe he's the best ball king this year. You know what I mean? If you want to get a piece of the Ravens offense outside of like Hollywood Brown. I'm just saying, like, to get all the big games is what I'm saying. You know what I mean? Because he'll have some sprinkled in there. You know what I mean? Like, you know what I worry about as a Niner fan, being familiar with Greg Roman, is I remember when there was, you know, not even the whispers or the murmurs. They came out and were like, we're going to expand the passing game with Kaepernick. And that was 2014. And they 4 wide receiver sets. And like, it was a mess. And that was it.
Yeah.
That was it. That was the end of Harbaugh and them. And then this is what they came out and said recently. So that's the one thing. But you know what? Maybe it's coach speak. Maybe I won't buy into it because we already seen what Lamar is in 2019. He could be efficient. You know what I mean?
He will be. And he will be.
Yeah. Let's go.
He will be.
Bateman, give me money.
Should we do one more rookie receiver? One more before we get into our last few questions?
Yeah,
I'm gonna snipe it. Devonta Smith. Let's hear about
it. I knew it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, no shock that the guy that tracks all the routes is a big fan of Devonta Smith. This guy's just such a baller. You know, you look at him in reception perception, 90th percentile against man coverage, 87th against zone, 89th against press. And that's the thing. At some point, I'm going to write a piece about like none of the research I've done over the last 7-8 years with reception perception leads me to believe that weight and size has anything to do with success rate versus press, like the ability to get off the line of scrimmage.
If you can't catch him, you can't hit him, right?
Exactly. Listen, and if you're 6'5" and 220 pounds and your technique sucks, you're going to be bad against press. Yep. If you're 5'10" or whatever the hell Devonta Smith is, and or 6 foot and 166, but your technique sucks, you won't get off press. Well, the good news is Devonta Smith's one of the best technicians coming into the NFL, I think, that I've ever studied, you know, and he's explosive. Like, that's what matters. And, you know, I think the great part about this pick for the Eagles specifically, you look at that offense before the draft, they didn't have any real layup guys. You know, Jalen Reagor, we'll see what happens there, but I think he's probably best as a number 2 and as a burner. That was where I think the Eagles put themselves
last year.
I think that's where they put themselves in a pretzel brain, basically, was they thought, listen, this offense needs to get more explosive. They need to be more of a vertical passing game. And that was true. But the 2020 Eagles needed someone that was going to make an instant impact. They needed someone that was going to hit the NFL field from day one and was going to, be able to get open, be able to run good routes, be able to be a good technician. That was Justin Jefferson. That was it. It was like
Rager before Jefferson came up.
It was staring them right in the damn face, and they overthought it and they went with the speed guy. This year, they just they trade up, they get over the Giants because clearly Gettleman was going to pick Devontae Smith at number 11. I think everybody knows that.
Tony, forget about it.
Now he's got freaking Kadarius Toney.
Got Tony.
Like a totally different player.
Completely opposite. Yeah.
Complete opposite. It's just weird, but that's what Gettleman
he did
does.
for the first time. Unprecedented.
He traded back
down. Yeah,
a couple times. So there is that at least. But, I think with Smith, he's going to be that guy that's going to be able to hit the NFL field from day one and be a good technician. Maybe his size ends up limiting like his upside or whatever, but I think he's really like a Calvin Ridley type of player. I know same school comparisons can be a little eye roll sometimes, but Ridley was basically just too good of a technician, too good of a separator to fail. I think Smith is that same way. There was a lot of questions about Ridley's size, Ridley's age coming out, just like there were with Devontae Smith. Obviously not as extreme. They're not as much to the degree. But
Ridley came out kind of old, in football.
Yeah, Ridley's like old. Ridley's old as hell at this point from like a football standpoint.
Shout out to my homie Smokey. I know you're watching right now, Smokey, because I've seen him earlier. But I've been trying to get Calvin Ridley off him in Dynasty, and I'm like, bro, he's so old, bro. He's so old. December.
He's like three good years away from retirement. It's a real tough scene.
I'll say anything to get him.
Hey, Matt's saying it, so maybe you can chop this afterwards, Bo.
Yeah, you clip that out.
Clip
that out.
There it is. Matt Harmon said
it. But what I find so fascinating about Devontae is that he can literally run everything. He can run all nine. And you're not going to get that. But I think that's also an attribute to his size. Everyone that's worried about his size, don't worry about his size. Worry about Tutu's size.
Well, that's different. That's like he's 140 pounds. That's insane.
Yeah.
Don't get him running with the wind though. To say he's in with the wind, bro, he's gone.
Luckily, he's gonna play in California, here in LA. He'll be fine. There won't be too much wind. Those away games, you got to worry about Tutu like literally blowing off the field. But yeah, no, I think for Smith, he's going to provide Jalen Hurts those like layup targets that was clearly needed in that offense last year. Like the degree of difficulty to which Hurts is going to have to play with now just got a lot easier than it would have before Smith hit the field.
Hell yeah. Hey, everyone in the chat, y'all want more rookie reception perception? Y'all need to make sure you go to receptionperception.com though. Because we ain't here to give y'all all this shit for free. Dilly.
Just give him a little taste.
Just here for taste. Sorry, I'm already ready for the summer. Let's go ahead and get into our next set of questions.
Go ahead, Robbie.
Kind of, I guess, big-ish news. All right, this is probably the biggest drama in the NFL. The NFL is our soap opera, if you will, our reality TV.
Yes.
And what's happening in our reality TV show is let's live in a world where Aaron Rodgers is no longer under center for Green Bay. How massive of a dip does the entire offense take without the reigning MVP? Let the show begin, Matt. I know, edit General Hospital music in.
Yeah, big dip. It would be tough. Look, Jordan Love is a total unknown. This guy was not even able to beat out, Tim Boyle or whatever the hell his name is, in Green Bay last year to be the number 2. Maybe that's unfair because obviously not a long offseason, not a normal offseason. I really think that it's just going to be a tough situation. We saw with this offense, the LaFleur offense and obviously the Shanahan offense, like all these guys are running the same thing. We have wondered for years, the 49ers obviously wondered, like, what would our offense, which has elevated Nick Mullins, CJ Beathard, like has his moments in this offense, what would it look like if we took a big time talent? Well, let's trade a bunch of draft picks to go up to number 3 and to find out and get Trey Lance. We actually saw for the first time ever what it would look like with a true number one, type of quarterback with Aaron Rodgers running this offense last year in Green Bay.
Yeah.
And lo and behold, it was one of the 3 most efficient offenses of the last decade.
Yeah.
So there's going to be a hit if Rodgers leaves. I would be worried about Davante Adams, to a point that like you might have to start dropping him down a few spots. Like last year, I was bullish that he was going to be the number 1 receiver because of his reception perception. I don't know if you guys know this, but he was the number 1 receiver in fantasy last year.
Receptionperception.com.
I don't know that.
Asked that in the chat earlier, and I like how you did that. You circled it back. Nice.
I don't know that we would be considering Adams to be in that contention, even if he was still going to get a bunch of targets. They're going to be targets from Jordan Love, So I don't know. I would be very worried about this offense if we saw Aaron Rodgers not play. I still think right now my gut is that he plays for the Packers in 2021. Whether he plays for the team beyond that, I think is in serious question. Hopefully they're able to work something out because I really don't want to see Adams suddenly get thrown off in his prime. Aaron Jones re-signs with the Packers to run it back with Aaron Rodgers. Like Amari Rodgers is another guy too. His profile's on the website. I actually think he can fit in pretty well in this offense. MBS, Alan Lazard, like. Look, Aaron, I know you wanted more. I get it, but like it could be worse. It could really legitimately be worse.
He wanted filet mignon, and they gave him hamburger helper, bro.
It's really with Amari.
I mean, like hamburger helper. It's probably at least
it's
like
a ribeye.
ribeye.
Is it a ribeye?
It's a ribeye. Yeah.
Ribeye, give me
and
one.
like you could do a lot worse. You could do a lot worse than ribeye. You could be eating hamburger helper or.
I love ribeye, by the way. So actually,
ribeye is my favorite cut.
Your version.
It's my favorite cut. Yeah,
it's the best steak known to man, bar none.
My version is better.
Beef.
After all.
Yes.
Wagyu beef, man. What are y'all doing? Come on. But no.
Hey, all right. Richmond. Let's go.
Hey, I've only had that shit like once or twice. Like honestly,
but he knew for the first time. He was like,
I was like, yo, this is the greatest.
He's like, bro, the perception on Wagyu, bro. He was like.
And I actually ate that for the first time this weekend when I went to Houston. It is all that it's cracked up to be.
It is all that it's 100% all that it's cracked
up. But with Amari Rodgers, I mean, it's really just kind of the deeper stuff. I mean, but that's the job that Adams is able to do. Maybe Aaron looks at perception and sees what you got on the website, right?
I mean, he has the most gigantic eyeballs in the game. He sees it all.
He does see it all.
I think he's just hoping to be able to buy, more than a few sicko packages on reception perception. I think he's just looking for a little bit more money, if you know what I'm saying.
Exactly. But no, I feel it. Really quick, one more thing. Don't you think before we get into our final question of the show, don't you think that if you're a Green Bay fan, aren't you sitting back just like, well, we've been through this before. We'll make it back. We'll bounce back. Okay.
Jordan Love is the next Hall of Famer.
Yeah. See, if I was a Green Bay fan, I don't know. Honestly, I don't know how I feel. I'd be so pissed that the team allowed this to happen again. Like that you pissed off another. I get it. Like with Favre, whatever. Like it happened. It is what it is. I just would be so pissed. And honestly, like we all rightfully hate on NFL owners for being, a bunch of dumb old rich whites and doing what they do.
You said it, not me.
I said it. It's okay.
We'll allow it.
We'll allow it. Thank you. I appreciate it. But like, this is a situation though where that team needs an owner. Like they don't have an owner, and like they've got Mark Murphy in there, like pretending to be the owner, even though he's not. Like they need somebody, like how Jim Irsay like basically made sure the Colts were going to bring back T.Y. Hilton. Even though T.Y. Hilton's like a replacement level receiver at this point, but like he got on the blower and made sure T.Y. you're coming back. Michael Bidwell, the Cardinals owner, flew his ass out to Arizona and like recruited J.J. Watt. You're coming to play for us. Like this is a situation where the owner needs to like step in and tell Brian Gutekunst like get out of the way. You're gonna do whatever Aaron wants. This is the way this goes. Like he's a superstar player, and like allow cooler heads to prevail there so that he gets to this point.
Handle.
So we'll see what happens.
Really quick, I love the magnet board. The magnet board behind you. You made a good choice. You made a
Well,
good
we'll
choice.
see. It's still a question, you know.
I understand. Finally, to close out with the addition of James Coe, friend of the show, by the way. With the addition of James,
hell yeah.
what are you?
Yeah, big up.
What are some of the upgrades or changes that we can expect from reception perception?
Yeah, James and I have been obviously good friends for a long time now, dating back to the NFL days, and we've worked together. Actually, he had a little stop at Yahoo as well.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy that is a good friend of mine. You know, we've got good chemistry together. Like having us back on the show on the YouTube channel, which you guys were great enough to plug earlier.
Awesome.
Like, it's just jumping, like riding a bike again. You know, with James and I being on the show together. So number one, that's going to be the big thing. Like, you know, obviously I want everybody to subscribe to the freaking website. You know, I want everybody, because when you subscribe to the website, you get the full, you know, hour-long reception perception show, but we're still going to be chopping things up from the show, putting them on YouTube, like giving you some of that free taste of reception perception that you want to go buy the whole thing at the website. Like having someone like James to specifically like help me showcase that in a fun and entertaining way through our new show. That's crucial with having James around. Also, just listen. I think someone said it earlier. Somebody's got to make executive decisions. James is good at. Listen. I know receivers. I know how to chart routes. I don't know everything about business. I don't know everything about marketing and everything like that. That's where James comes in. He's the stud in that regard, and I'm happy that he is on board. That he was so excited about jumping into this whole thing with me. So yeah, I mean, he's going to bring a lot. Like in addition to just being his usual boisterous self. Yeah. Awesome is good too, I guess. Usual awesome self on the show, and bringing some of his own spicy takes to the analysis.
I have a theory that when he introduces himself, he says, "My name's James Coe." Like he's that cool.
He wishes. Usually when James introduces himself, he has to follow it very quickly with "Sorry for being late." Yeah. So James is awesome. He's going to bring a lot of content to the website through the video stuff, but also, you know, as a big time decision maker as well. All the behind the scenes stuff that you guys don't care about.
No, hey, we do care about it though. We do care about it though. Yeah.
Because, like, I mean, for you guys to come from like, you know, I mean, like, you know, when you look at your guys' journey and then now to make it where it's big enough that you could do your own thing, you know what I mean? And being in control of it. And like a small operation could be like as big as these big operations. Like when you have someone like a James Coe he's a jack of all trades in that sense. Like, oh, yeah, man, this is how we market. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, it allows you to just play your strengths and just, you know what I mean? Do the RPs and you know what I mean? Yeah,
I hope so.
Hell yeah. Well, let's go ahead. We're gonna go around the horn so everybody can go ahead and sign off. Well, first, of course, guests always go first whenever in our house. So, Matt, what do you have coming up next? Where can people find you, follow you, all that good stuff?
I appreciate you guys having me on. Of course, this was awesome. A hell of a good way to spend the hour here. And for everyone out there, you can find me at @MattHarmon_BYB on Twitter and Instagram. We talked about the YouTube channel and receptionperception.com, of course, and also still doing a ton of stuff with Yahoo Sports. We've got the podcast over there, and I'm still writing a ton of articles. I think I'm on the hook for a schedule release article here soon.
Okay.
Spicy stuff, you know, the schedule.
Yeah.
I pity the fool who's got to be making that schedule right now, not knowing this Aaron Rodgers situation, you know, because Aaron Rodgers, you know, versus Patrick Mahomes and like they've got the Chiefs, they've got the Niners on the schedule. Like they're probably trying to put those on prime time. They're probably not trying to put them on prime time if Jordan Love's starting quarterback. So I'll be talking about that in our.
Well, they did it with Brett Hundley. I'll tell you that much. When Brett Hundley,
we've all seen that one. We all saw that story. Oh God,
Hustler.
Yeah.
I'm Alex. I go by the Fantasy Football Hustler. Go follow me on all social media at FFHustler420. And go follow me on YouTube and every podcast out there and Twitch, Fantasy Football Hustler.
Oh,
yeah. You can find me at the GMM Network on everything. You could also, you give me money. You know what I mean? And also, the Earth is my turf. And thank you, Matt Harmon, you know what I mean, the legend, for stopping by. You know what I mean? I like to feel like we are a reflection of who we surround ourselves with, and we just
100%.
got that greater. You know what I mean? With Matt here. You know what I mean? Shout out to you, the legend. Can I announce next week, Robbie, what we got coming? Is that official?
Yeah.
We also got another legend in his own right, another personal favorite of mine, who I actually, and you know, along with Matt Harmon, you know what I mean? I found this guy years ago through being a fan of Pat Mayo. We got my man
Just say
Jake
that we're
Seeley coming
old.
on.
Just say that we're
Hold
old.
on,
We've been
listen,
playing
hold on.
fantasy for a long
Listen,
time.
man, we got the homie Jake Seeley coming on, man. I'm ecstatic, bro. Like, this guy's one of the greatest rankers in the game. You know what I mean? The best. How about that? My version's better. He's the best in the game. You don't want to miss it. You know what I mean? And make sure everybody go and subscribe to my guy at the receptionperception.com, because, man, you need the isms. If you want to get the money, take it from the Gimme Money Network. You want the money, listen to this man. It takes money to make money. You won't regret it.
No.
Thank you again, Matt. Hey, Robbie J, let him know.
You guys can catch me tomorrow. Well, first off, tomorrow, the Fantasy First Rounders, Chris Pinto and the gang will be live breaking down all of your dynasty needs. So make sure you guys tune in to tomorrow, Wednesday. Hit the bell so that you're notified whenever they go live. Thursday, I'll be live with Scott Fish. We're going to be going behind the scenes of the Scott Fish Bowl. Excited to interview Scott and also let you guys know how I'll be continuing kicking ass and taking names in this fantasy football world. Kidding. But and then Friday.
Oh no, we ain't playing.
Friday we have Rumboys After Dark. Aside from that, get at us on the SportsMe app. Follow us on all social media. I feel like I'm forgetting something important, but I'm sure I'll remember it when I get off of air, and I'll announce it later. Yeah.
And I just got signed up on receptionperception.com right now. The $99 tier. Follow suit. Go do it. Get access to everything.
There we go. Hey,
awesome.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Cheers to me. Cheers to you, all the Rump Boys and girls. What it do, dilly. Hey, get your tickets for draft night out if you're going to the Fantasy Football Expo. We out of here. Peace.
Can I roll some? Can I keep it lit? Can I smoke some? Can I be about it quick? Can I stack up? Can I save money, talk on flat guns? Can I play a low key, mask up? Can I keep it on?